we're going to be painting up a model here. I have one, and I'll have the other one here as a surprise before I turn on the camera, because battery life is valuable, and instead of buying a dead battery that has a plug into it, I made bad life choices and I bought a 3D printer, which might be a good life choice in the end. Who knows? But grab my brushes and we'll turn on the camera. And this man here, this is the... Come on, focus for me. There we go. This is the special Warlord model of the month. So if you spent about $75 American, you got this guy for free. This is a heavy armored German from Conflict 47 with the reload emote, pose. And he is made out of their new fancy dancy resin. So we're going to be painting him up as one of the things today. The other one we're doing is we did this boy a while ago. We're just going to be, applying the varnish to him. And then, if we still have time, depending on how long this takes, we have some more sort of Russians here, or Germans, that we're going to paint on the side. And a sister, most likely. But before we get to the sister, it's most likely going to finish the molding process there, the painting, or the 3D printing. I do also have a model of the model that's supposed to be printed that we could also paint up, though it is kind of destroyed. Not the best looking. But, we do what we can. Man. What else do we got up here we could paint? We got a tiny version of it, but that's more for what you can do. Anyways, let's get right into it. So, Warlord Games states that you can basically just paint right onto this model here. You can just grab and go, is what I'm going to call it. So we should just be able to paint this on. This is a airbrush primer made by Vallejo. I just let it settle a bit. I don't shake it too much so it thickens, and then I just apply it. But this way you will have to apply multiple thin layers, which isn't a bad thing. This is your primer, so you want it to take your time on it, because you don't want it to fill gaps or clog and be thick. It's okay not to get the first layer perfect. Just apply, build up. This is after one layer of the primer. And yeah, in person, I'm gonna hold that up even closer. There we go. And in person, yeah, it took to that primer really well. And for you guys can see what it looks like. That's the primer on the base. So that's how it normally looks when I do it on a plastic model and it's watery. And this is what it looks like after on their resin. That same little tiny bit thicker, but like not that huge of a difference. Like tiny bit. And yeah, I can just start painting right now basically because once I apply that like armor color, it's gonna cover. So the German armor, heavy armor, is based off of the same styling as you would a tank from late war Germany. So they have that sort of desert yellow as their armor. But how I'm gonna do this is because I have more khaki from Vallejo, and I should use up. I'm gonna paint it on, and then when we hit it with the yellow, like the sepia wash, it's going to basically dye it. Vallejo paint is really good. I don't recommend it though as your first paint, just because it's definitely a non-hold your hands paint. Though they are over time have been adding more and more colors, so less mixing, which I'm always a fan of. The less mixing of paints I have to do, besides the obvious like just making something darker or brighter with a gray or a black, is the best way for me. You know. Anyways. But once you've painted a few models, maybe a year into it or so, and you kind of understand the main theory behind, thinning paints, I do really like Conflict. It is like a better version of 40k. That or one-page rules, everyone says. We're about to see how Games Workshop takes that, because there's heavy proof and rumors that 10th edition's coming out here soon. And there's rumors people are saying it's going to be like one-page rules, which I highly doubt. I got a bunch of more of these armored guys coming in. I have some already. I use as commanders and as what have you. Which will be nice, because then I have some American armored boys that I could potentially reprint or repaint. So here he is, and if you guys want to know what paint that was, that is Vallejo khaki. So I think our next is we're going to paint we got the leathers done. So next we're going to get the silvers. We're going to be using a lead belcher, a mix with Vallejo air lead belcher sort of spray, and we're going to use Dawnstone. So we're using the lead belcher on the magazine. And on the gun itself. This gray is for the filter / turbines on the bottom of the pack here. The water bottle that's on its back. And we're going to use for that, ow, my foot, because it's quick and easy here, we're going to use Castellan green. See, I think next time we paint, we're definitely going to push the light over. Or I do have a lamp I found online that I'll probably pick up next payday. I get my monies in. Along with other parts of this model that are like little indents or rubbers and stuff like that. So need the tiny brush for that. This is kind of why I wanted to paint the metal in first. This would be the biggest pain in the butt. Try to paint metal on here after we got all this down. So with the metal we can at least be messy with it. A special paint that no longer is used by Games Workshop, but you can use, I'll show you the alternative that I would use for my paint range, if I can find it. So you could either do one of these two, if you want more red sinister look, or the color I'm doing from Army Painter. Or, if you have them from Games Workshop, the Waystone. These were cool. They were made when Games Workshop was coming back with Eldar, and the idea was you're supposed to use these to do the gemstones and stuff. So you apply like their Stormhost silver, they're really shiny silver, and then you would drop and drag, and it would give that cool gem effect. But I find just applying it to any sort of silver will give you the same effect. And I use this on my guys to represent the Rift technology. Give it a glow. It does pretty well for glows. So there we have the boyo. We're going to go do the hands. And then we're going to apply the stripes. And then we'll apply the decals. Because these guys are supposed to be heavily armored. So having some of them with their hands exposed makes sense. But this guy's supposed to be generic soldier dude. So we'll do him with his hands gloved. But we used Steel Legion Drab, the mid-range, mid-life of Games Workshop version. Just using that for the coloring. So yeah. I think that's about it. I think now it's on to the stripes. Stripes, there you are. So on vehicles, you can do this with airbrushes, and it gives that nice brush look. But he's too small for me to do airbrushing. So we're gonna just be doing it this way. Getting nice lines with small brush, but small brush requires me to constantly keep going back and grabbing more paint. If I want those to scale hand painted lines, now this is another great way you can hide issues with paint, or if you spilled over. For this color, we're going to use a layer paint. Because again, when we hit it with a wash, it's going to look different. It's going to look more orangey. And this is Deathclaw Brown. You can paint these dudes any way you want. You can paint them like early, so like test field, like the gray, like the German gray. You could paint them desert camo. The last color, it's a 3-color tone. Especially now since we're using the darkest brown that I got here beside me. You want to be very little with it, so we don't want it to take over. So we're going to finish this up here. That was my warning bell to get ready, get prepped. So we're going to just finish these next couple of, lines. And then when we come back, we'll have a model to show off. So here we go, guys. We have the boyo here. So next off here, we're going to apply the texture paint. It's going to be easy. It's just grab our texture brush, grab the paint that we're using for it, which is some Citadel texture paint. Being careful of the boots. Normally, especially if you want to add things like tufts or features like signs and stuff, they're going to have to paint anyways. Normally you want to make your base first, because then depending on like your base, if it's tiles or dry mud, it doesn't look like you're sinking in. But with this being a on a graveled field, and he's in a ton of armor, literally and figuratively, I think it's pretty safe to make it so it look like he's sinking in to the ground. But I think with that, we're gonna quickly do the wash here, because the thing should be done by now. So we're gonna grab our palette, we're gonna grab our light tone, and we're going to apply this all over the model. Of course, being careful not to touch the base. Normally I'd let the base dry before I get to this stage, but I'm kind of in a rush. I do always, with the Army Painter washes, I would highly recommend, watering them if you're doing it straight from the pot, like they're brand new. They do make a quick shade medium, which is actually really, I'd recommend over water with how they're made. Well, there you are. So that's him washed. So when it dries up, it'll be a lot better, but as you can see, as best as I can try to show you in this light. So that, guys, we're gonna go let that dry. There we go. So as you can see, the wash has set. We're going to cut our transfers here. And we just want one of these tiny ones so you guys can see. There we go. That's so tiny. What I like to do with these is, if I had my wet palette out, I don't at the moment, but I can do it on here. Other people like to use the paper towel method. You're just gonna boop and boop. But basically the paper towel method wets it from the bottom up. Take our do, and we're going to apply some stuff to it. This is a special sort of thing. The idea is you put it on and it helps set it, just as if you set it onto microsol or like a varnish. But because we applied that wash, which has a little bit of that varnish in it already, it is already basically set to go. I'm going to apply it to his shoulder. This one's going to be a little bit more trickier, just because they're very tiny. I have seen people do it where they use tweezers or Q-tips, even their X-Acto knives to get these on. I find a very fine tip brush where the bristles are very tight together work pretty well for this. So there's the shoulder pad, and if I can get it a little bit better here. There's the helmet. Alright, so it looks like they're dry, so I can rinse that off. So we'll put him to the side. We'll go grab our model from the window.